chip that has the potential to change everything. It's a new, better brain. Oh my God.
I am STEM, the system operating your body for you.
Six gibbons, 3 buff and 3 black, with white hands, feet, and face rub. 3 normals and 3 operants, the latter with electrodes implanted in their brains, formed the research colony in the summer of 1971.
This is the Tesla valet card that I can use to start my car. So I'm going to dissolve it in acetone to get the chip out so I can take the chip to encapsulate it in a biopolymer and implant it in my hand and start my car. I've noticed they take about an hour to dissolve completely. They're a little bit heavier dutier than like a hotel room key. And the antenna goes around the perimeter of the card, so you can't just cut the card in half. These Tesla key cards have no unique identifier on the card at all. So you can buy any of these cards and you can program it to any of your Tesla Model 3. So the way the process works is you would take this card and you would tap it to your Model 3 and you would write a new key and you use your master key, so people can't just randomly write a new card for you to start your car. A few years ago I got this RFID implant in my hand, and it's just basic access control. If I were to tap my hand to your phone, it would automatically open a browser and go to my web page. It also works with my front door, so it's just access control. And then I pre-ordered a Tesla Model 3 a few years ago, and I heard that the key card was actually going to be an RFID based technology to start the car. So I was like, oh, maybe I can get that information and store it to my chip and to be able to start my car. When I tried to scan and get all this information off the Tesla card, I was thinking, oh, hey, I can get a lot of information about the Java applet that it runs on, but I can't take that information and write it to my current chip. So it's pretty secure. Good job, Tesla. It was like, I'm just gonna take the chip that I have in my valet card and encapsulate it and implant that one in my hand. Mel is the person that started Dangerous Things. And the chip is very much similar. He went to like his vet, and it's the same chip to track for your dog. And he said, well, if it's safe enough for me, it's safe enough for my pet. So I kind of roped him into my Tesla hat because he's all this knowledge. And when I dissolved the chip, I sent it to him and he encapsulated it in biopolymer. Which is safe to use for the body and under the skin. Talked to a few doctors. They were a little weary about doing this because it's kind of a questionable thing. End up finding a guy that does body modifications and things like that. He's very familiar with the process and sterilizing everything and the biopolymer and the flex and how it needs to be installed. If anyone is like a hardware hacker, they'll think this is ironic. The guy's name is Pineapple. So, like the Pineapple Wi-Fi sniffer, I'm going to be having some guy named Pineapple install this chip in my hand that starts my car. They say like, oh, you can't like start your car with that. That's not secure. It won't work. And it makes me want to do it more, and not more because they say, no, you can't do it, and I want to like defy them. It makes me question why. Like, why can't you do it that way? Like, what are the limitations? And it actually makes me research. It's to be able to reverse engineer it, understand how it works, why it works that way. And then at the end, it's like going to the candy store. You're like, I did it. It's like the sword of destiny. You're like, ah.
Well, it sounds like science fiction, but tonight Elon Musk says he plans to make it a reality. He's creating a brain implant that merges our brains with artificial intelligence. Nightbeat's Maria Medina is in Silicon Valley with how the entrepreneur says he can change lives. Maria?
Elon Musk, the man behind the Tesla and SpaceX, is developing a brain implant that would connect to a computer or smartphone via Bluetooth. And he says you can control it by using an iPhone app.
The threads are very tiny, and there's a lot of them.
Elon Musk is once again making headlines and giving hope to those like Terry Little.
If it would change her life, I would absolutely welcome it.
Terry's mom suffered a stroke 20 years ago.
It completely changed her life. She's been in a wheelchair since then, and she has had extremely low quality of life since then.
Tesla CEO says the startup he founded, Neuralink, is developing a device with threads as small as a neuron that could repair motor function or provide a memory boost to cancer patients, quadriplegics, and stroke victims, just to name a few.
This, I think, has a very good purpose, which is to cure important diseases, and ultimately to help secure humanity's future.
He can do it. He's a genius.
Russ Hancock, the CEO of joint venture Silicon Valley, believes if anyone can merge human beings with artificial intelligence, it's Elon Musk himself.
This is a guy that has changed the world as we know it with an electric car that actually works. This is a guy that's boring tunnels through the earth. This is a guy that's trying to put people on Mars. Now he's trying to get inside your brain.
The critics will say, well, I don't want something in my brain that will gather data.
Yes. There are a host of issues that would have to be addressed, and these issues will take decades to address.
And we can question, the way he gets there, but he's always thinking of ways to improve lives, and including electric cars.
Terry owns a Tesla and says her car is an example of how Musk is already changing the world. Now she hopes his brain implant will soon be able to help her mother.
And if that technology worked and it was something that gave me hope, I wish she would have had it 20 years ago.
And Elon Musk hopes to have the brain implant inside a patient's head by late next year. On the Night Beat, I'm Maria Medina.
Choose to collapse one reality, the other will be forced into existence.
You cannot possibly begin to understand what you're about to witness. I give you Enoch, a quantum connection with the human mind.
What is that? Check it out. We've connected this guy's brain activity to another guy in San Jose. 3, 2, 1, fire! He had no choice. His finger was under the control of another man's brain.
I have faith in you, faith in your work.
Your body's still strong.
Just the nerves are severed.
We can help you get your body back.
Spark it up. It works.
Are you getting this now?
These are all my moves. You didn't just connect Voltaire. You connected all of us. This can't stop. I want more.
We could do everyone.
No. Someone has to stay off the system.
Give the word.
I will connect you all. Do not fear it. 3, 2, 1.
What did you do? I must ask you not to interfere first I found it hard to control. But now, an unexpected pleasure.
A single unified field connecting everything.
This is wrong.
I'm all kinds of wrong.
This is just the beginning.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Johnson and I would like to put a chip in your brain. Now I know that may sound a little sci-fi, that's probably what you're thinking, but hopefully you'll change your opinion in a few minutes. I started a company called Kernel a year ago and I invested $100 million to create chips that would be implanted in the brain to help address disease and dysfunction. We're leveraging this emerging technology to also explore how we might extend human potential. I made this $100 million by selling my previous company to PayPal. Now, in making this investment, a lot of people made remarks that I seem crazy for doing this, which is not unreasonable to say in doing this, because neurotech and neuroscience are incredibly hard. It's capital intensive. We haven't made critical breakthroughs of the scientific understanding. Our tool set is not that great. In fact, the 90s was called the decade of the brain, and arguably not much came from that. The Obama initiative was a step in the right direction, but still it was funded at 1/3 of 1% of the total NIH budget. And so it's understandable that people would look at this and say, it doesn't make any sense. Venture capitalists would say it's too risky, government funding is insufficient, and to be honest, trying to crowdsource funding for this is just really hard. So I'm doing this because I think that unlocking the brain and learning how to read and write our neural code is the single most consequential and exciting adventure in the history of the human race. The good news is that we have a new era of neuroscience upon us. With advancements in microelectronics, machine learning, and material science, we now have the tools to make attempts at these breakthroughs. We're also building on the shoulders of giants. The first cochlear implant was approved by the FDA 30 years ago. There's now 300,000 of these implants. A deep brain stimulator was approved by the FDA in 1997, and 125,000 people now have this implanted. Let's take a look at how far this technology has come. So we're going to see a video here. This gentleman has Parkinson's, and we're going to begin with this video of this stimulator on in the basal ganglia. And he's going to turn it off, and we're going to see what happens. Let's roll this video.
On and okay. And this is me when I turn it off. You won't be able to read that, it's shaking too much. So it's almost an instantaneous reaction. I can't control this.
So the electrical stimulation discontinues, and he loses control of his motor movements. His speech begins to slur, and according to Parkinson's patients, it's not only hard to express thought, it's hard to hold on to thought. Now let's see what happens when he turns this back on. Let's roll the second clip.
So I think party time is over. Almost automatically. The power comes back on, and I'm steady. So
that is unbelievable. What an accomplishment by visionary scientists and engineers to figure that out. Now the secret here is if you ask a neuroscientist how or why this works, they couldn't tell you. We don't know. I find that actually very exciting, because if we can do this with a blunt instrument, in an open loop fashion, what could we do with greater precision, better microelectronics, and actually be able to see what happens when you stimulate? So why do I care about all of this? And maybe a more relevant question is, why should you care about this? Well, my stepfather was recently diagnosed with early symptoms of Alzheimer's. My father struggled with drug usage for the first 25 years of my life. And I had chronic depression for a decade, something I would never wish upon anybody. I have 3 children, which kept me in the game, and I fortunately came out of that. But I wonder, if we were able to read and write neural code, could we have eliminated these things? So now as we contemplate the next great frontier of human aspiration, if the 20th century was about learning how to read and write biology and going to the moon, what are the most ambitious things we could imagine as a species in the 21st century? I would argue it's inside our brain. Yet it's hard to imagine the things we can't see. So in order to do this, let's play a game of what if. Let's imagine that we have chips implanted in our brain, that we can read and write neural code at a fashion that gives us the ability to do a bunch of things. So what if we could walk a mile in someone else's mind? What if we could feel the ocean, the forest, and the honeybees? What if we could live history instead of reading it? What if we could conceive of 4 and 20-dimensional shapes? What if we could, instead of destroying our enemies, we destroy the concept of enemies? What if we could be more kind, empathetic, and compassionate? What if we could communicate telepathically with a new language that is 100 times richer in conveying thought, emotion, and experience? What if we could internally channel the genius of a writer, scientist, or artist? What if we could eliminate cognitive biases, compulsive behavior, and destructive tendencies? What if Trump could tweet directly from his brain? Imagine the number of confifis we would have on the interwebs. I am consumed with the question of what may exist that I cannot taste, touch, feel, smell, imagine, experience, and become. So I'm just going to assume that we're jamming here and that you agree that the brain is important for something or another. But I would argue as a society, we don't act like it's important. For example, in the past several months, I've hosted 12 intimate dinners with some of the smartest people I know. And I posed this question under the dinners about the future of human and artificial intelligence, HI plus AI. And the question is, we're in 2050 and we're pleasantly surprised with our life. We've built a pretty remarkable world. What did we focus on? And without fail, I got the same answers. Well, climate science matters and education is important. Healthcare really is something we should focus on. Security, governance. Not once did a single person identify the brain as something relevant to our future. I find that astonishing. How could we have such a blind spot as a species? Everything we are, everything we desire to become, every problem we pursue, every opportunity we have, our very humanity begins at the brain. So why do we not pursue the brain with equal vigor as we do any other problem, independent of how challenging it might be? Well, I have an idea. It's difficult for humans to imagine the power of potentially of new emerging technology. If we were with Gutenberg in 1450 and we said, imagine the ideas that would be written about using this printing press, or when electricity was discovered, what things would it power? Or with the creation of the internet, what things would we connect? Our imagination ends at the beginning of the unknown. I also think it's true, as this quote says, that humans will not sit passively and wait for evolution to give us a better brain. So in building Kernel, I oftentimes think about the movie Arrival, where aliens show up to planet Earth and they say, hey, guys, we need you to save us 3,000 years from now. And in order for you to not destroy yourselves and be able to save us, we need to upgrade your operating system. So here's the code, get to work, and we'll see you in 3,000 years. Well, that lands home with me because I grew up in a deeply religious family, Mormonism and community. And in that world, I was told there was someone in charge. So if someone died, it was a personal setback or a war, it was all going to be okay. Someone was in control. When I left my religion in my adult life, and I concluded there was in fact no one in charge, that it was my fellow humans who were in charge. In fact, 7 billion plus humans. And that any ambition I had in life, any pleasant future that I imagined, was contingent upon the successful cooperation of these humans. So I quickly scanned all the knowledge I had about every human interaction I've ever had, of history, past and present, and I thought to myself, oh shit. When it comes to your ambitions, the big plans you have in life, the things you care about the most, we don't have the luxury of time to contemplate our cognitive evolution. We don't have the power to make in-groups 8 billion strong. Technology is progressing at an increasingly faster pace. AI and automation are increasingly taking human jobs, which we will need to retrain people and give them a new sense of purpose and meaning in society. We are in danger of being blindsided by risk, and we are living in a world that we increasingly cannot predict. We are simply overwhelmed. When I look at this problem set, I can't conclude anything other than we must upgrade the human operating system. So when people say to me they think I'm crazy for what I'm trying to do, I would say I would be crazy not to. I'll leave you with one thought today. With increasingly powerful tools to literally author any kind of world that we can imagine, what kind of story will we choose to write?
Hello, Morgan. Nice to meet you.
In the flesh.
You'll see now how happy we can be.
Be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And pray in the Spirit on all occasions, with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert, and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people.